Tom is listening in New Hampshire. Hey, Tom, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I'm looking at the news websites there about how Hong Kong is going to be electing a president, or I should say some people in Hong Kong are going to be electing a president, and the bureaucrats in Beijing say, hold it. Before any candidate can run for that office, they have to be approved by the big shots in Beijing. Okay, they're going to go through this approval process, and then they can run and get elected. But we don't want them electing somebody we don't like. And this is a big scandal about how it's anti-democracy. And, of course, gang rape is a democracy where 5 persons say yes and 1 person says no, and the majority rules. So,
well, yeah, the one I've heard is 2 wolves and a sheep deciding on dinner, but sure, you could make that analogy too.
So democracy isn't all that good, I think. But even so, I leave notes on the comment section about it's kind of like in the USA, where if you're a Democrat or a Republican, you need a handful of signatures on a paper, but you got to get thousands and thousands more if you're a libertarian.
Yeah, it's really tough for third parties in America, and the reason is essentially the duopoly. The 2 parties have decided, look, we can't agree on too much. One thing we do agree on is we don't like third parties. And
yeah,
so they get all these rules passed that essentially say, look, if your party hasn't performed to this level in the last 4 years, then you have to get all 20,000, 100,000, 120,000 signatures, and then you can play in the big kid sandbox or whatever. And what it successfully does is gives us far fewer choices.
And the excuse for that, by the way, a few years ago during a presidential primary, I called up Congressman Ron Paul's office. He was one of the Republicans running for president, and I pointed out, this is one of his issues too, by the way. The excuse for not requiring so many, if they didn't require all these thousands and thousands of signatures, you might come up with 30 candidates on the ballot. And I mentioned that there were 30 Republicans running for president in the New Hampshire primary. And what you do then is you go down there and you get the ballot with 30 names on it, and you pick your favorite one and you vote for that one. And we survived. So, it's not like there's any validity to that excuse that there would be too many candidates if they didn't require all those signatures.
Yep. I don't really see much of a point in voting in general. I mean, you're not really going to make a difference.
It seems on the localist level, I don't mind, but those are the places where you're going to have fewest people running. I'm running right now as a delegate to the state convention for the Republican Party. And
seriously? Sorry to hear that, Mark.
I do. I did it 2 years ago. I did it again.
And
this year.
You know what? I remember talking to you about it 2 years ago, and you said you felt like it was it wasted your day. You had to go
whole day.
Drive somewhere, be really bored, eat a crappy lunch.
Crappy lunch. I'm packing a lunch this time, and
yeah, okay, but this time things are going to be different, Mark.
Well, I think I've learned a few things about how to go about it. Right, like I arrive at a different time. I don't have to listen to just the political big fat liars talk as much. Make the votes.
What are you hoping to accomplish out of this?
Change the party platform for the Republican Party.
And what would that do for your freedom in your life?
It is going to send a message to the people who are in the Republican Party, the representatives and that kind of thing, that the Republican Party is changing here in New Hampshire, that it's not the we hate gays and we support the military party here in New Hampshire, that it's an entirely different party. And I'd like to point out that the Republican Party in New Hampshire is the one that voted against state police militarization and department militarization of police. And I think that makes our Republican Party significantly different. I think that they're infiltrated and filled with liberty-oriented folks.
Didn't you try to change the platform last time?
Yeah, it was about 27 votes shy.
Okay.
And that was just the platform on marriages between one man and one woman.
Wow.
How would you have felt about that,
Sounds like
Tom?
a lot of headache. Go ahead, Tom.
If I can explain. Yeah, it's about the anti-liberty people have this flawed line of reasoning that says, well, you elected those people, and that's one category. It's your own fault if you voted for them. And then, well, shame on you if you didn't even bother to vote. Don't bother griping. Okay, that's the second category. But then there's that third category, and they ignore it. But, hey, we have every right to point out, hey, we voted against them. It's not our fault. So we covered all of that, and they ignore that third category because it doesn't suit their purpose. The facts do not support their argument.
They're going to ignore you either way.
Yeah. but yeah, at least you have the answer. You did your part. You ran for that office, and you did your part. What are we supposed to do? Clone ourselves so we can be more on election day than the crazy people? Forget it. We're not doing that.
Well, yeah, thanks for the call, Tom. But I don't think you have any obligation to spend your precious time. Life is short. Spend it in the ways that make you happy.
Sure.
Not sitting there and doing these political gymnastics, trying to get the platform changed. Mark, I feel sad for you hearing this. Like, you're going to be wasting another weekend. You're going to be stressed out afterwards. It's probably going to raise your blood pressure.
It'll do those things. There's no doubt about it. But you have to consider that I moved here for the Free State Project not to find more liberty for me, because I can do that relatively easy at this point. What I could, however, what I want is I want more liberty as an option for other people. And I don't have the time to do the state rep thing, and I couldn't get elected with my murder charge anyway. So the best I can do is run as a delegate to the state convention and put my little bit of time in there. But, things have changed in New Hampshire. When the Free Staters had their big rush in 2010, they brought down the tax rate by 12%. That's a quantifiable.
The tax rate of 0 was brought down by 12%. What are you talking about? The state budget?
The state budget.
The tax, just to be clear, the tax rate, the sales tax and income tax for personal individuals is 0 in New Hampshire. That
Right.
can't be brought down much further.
Property taxes, and there's a state portion of the property taxes, were brought down. And you probably didn't see a big difference because the state portion isn't that large, but you probably aren't. You're probably just getting the bill and saying, I hate these people anyway when you get it. And so, but it's a quantifiable difference. It's less government burden, and I'm willing to spend a little time to see that happen. That's my goal.
That sounds nice and everything, but are you seriously saying that you don't want liberty for yourself? Ourselves are the things that we have the most control over. Our own lives are the things that we can influence and make meaningful changes in. And you can try to sound altruistic and stuff, but I do want liberty for myself. And I think I can get it more easily than I can get it I can set everyone else free. Maybe people who don't even want to be set free or don't even want my help.
I think one has to define what freedom means for them, precisely what it means.
Yeah.
And
the political stuff affects my life little. I'm not going to say 0 because it is nice to not pay state income taxes or sales taxes or whatever. And it's nice to live in New Hampshire where there are fewer cops and so forth, and out kind of in the woods where you get left alone. But most of the other stuff that has the most influence on my personal freedom are things that have nothing to do with the government. Things that I and only I can control.
Sure.
The people that are my best friends and the people I see the most often. The job that I do. Where I go to work. What I do for work and where I live. My living
But those are the
situation.
things that people are changing for themselves generally anyway. Like the average person says, I have freedom over my job. I have freedom over the people I hang out with. And they understand that. And those are the, as life goes by, they put aside things like high school and its nonsense and say, hey, you know what? I'm sick and tired of appeasing jerks that are going to be losers in life, and I'm going to instead
well, if you're sick and tired of appeasing jerks, then don't participate in the political system. I refuse to give it any of my consent. I experimented with politics when I first came here. For a couple years, I tried to actually go and lobby the state house and give speeches and stuff like that. And it didn't get me anywhere except really frustrated and feeling like I wasted a lot of time. And just after seeing that, I wanted no part in it afterwards. And I'm glad that I decided that because my life is better for it.
The process is slow and arduous, but consider that whatever the alternatives are not particularly useful either. So I don't disagree.
No, I think the alternatives are incredibly useful.
Okay.
Spending your time and money on things that increase your personal freedom, that's totally useful.
That's what people are doing, and the government's growing.
I think, I understand that there's people who feel like, I want to make more freedom, say, for my children into the future and all this stuff. I get a lot of that, but I think that if energies were spent on things that weren't so incremental, if that time was taken to think of something really, never been tried before, never thought of before, because no one's taken the time to think about it because they're too busy doing these other actions that have been tried for hundreds of years, maybe we'd get somewhere really, really fast.
That's just central planning.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.